we're the first ones to say that men's health needs to be highlighted. So then we are the first ones that need to address the issue in itself. Hello and welcome. So in today's video, just want to talk about suicide, depression, what we can do basically to combat it, and just a few facts and figures surrounding it basically. So depression is one of the most prevalent illnesses now in the world, with it affecting over 300 million people. And it's not just about bad moods, feeling sad, things like this. It is a leading factor in global disabilities. So it does affect not just only the mental health, it does then have that knock-on effect to our physical health. So 800,000 deaths each year are attributed to suicide, and that's for the age group between 15 to 29. So that's a lot of people dying very, very young, and it's something we can prevent, and we know how to prevent it. That's the ultimate thing. It is just, we're basically not doing enough. The World Health Organization recognises that there are many ways to combat this illness, but that in many different countries, only 10% of the affected population actually can gain access to these treatments. There's a number of different reasons why this may be the case, whether it be the social stigma to that individual, they may have financial implications that prevent them having access to that thing. There's a multiple of reasons. It's not just saying one thing, that's why we can't do it, or this is why we can do it, things like that. So many mental health issues actually rely on the individual themselves to almost self-diagnose or realise where they are. And if your head isn't working correctly, if your head is damaged, if you will, how are we meant to perceive things in a normal light? So we're asking people that are working with a damaged mindset in the first place to then try and judge it from a normal perception. Not only do we all have our own individual perceptions of things anyway, but like I say, it's asking someone then with a damaged mental state to try and perceive something in a medical way. So this can be a problem. Getting the help in the first place, we may not acknowledge or realise that we need the help. And then the professional's point of view, like I say, we all perceive things differently. So through no fault of their own, the professional may not be able to recognise it as easily or as clearly as they should, because the individual there that is in front of them that is depressed is able to hide it well or mask it, different things like this, or they may just not think they are depressed when in fact they are. And like I say, so this perception of it, then that needs addressing in itself, as well as all the other things we need to be able to do. According to Mills, loneliness and social isolation has strongly become a massive concern in the UK. That was in 2015, before lockdown. Obviously, this coronavirus, this lockdown, has only made these things and this social isolation even worse. And this is why now, when we're coming out of lockdown, and even whilst we're still in lockdown, we need to support one another. We need to talk to each other. We need to help and communicate. It's not just about, let's just wait till we can get out of lockdown. What can we do now? We know loneliness is detrimental to our health. So instead of waiting, we may not be able to wait. Let's start now, put things in place, and then when we do come out of lockdown, we can then get the physical social aspects. So online at the minute, then when we're able, like say, to in person, then we do that. But it's not just about waiting until we can get to that day. The definition of social isolation, it's been very simplistically stated as the state of being alone or lacking social relationships. A study from 1973 shows how people lacking social links will ultimately suffer from social loneliness and the detrimental effects that then come with that. So yes, 2021 now, obviously we are all very, very aware even people that would not have previously been aware of these things and social isolation, we are now overly aware. But these things, we've always been aware of them. Well, not always, but like I say, back as far as 1973, we recognised how bad being isolated is and how detrimental it can be to our health. Loneliness itself isn't an issue, because we all feel lonely from time to time. So if you start a new gym, a new sports club, a new class, whatever it may be, you're going to feel lonely to some extent. But if we have the ability within ourselves to socially integrate and have the social communication there to be able to build up these links, then that's where loneliness itself isn't an issue. But again, we need to have the things in place to be able to integrate into other groups, other societal, let's say other groups in society, like say sports teams, classes, anything like that. It's only becomes an issue if we haven't got those communication skills in place. And like I say, that's where these things need to be put in place very early. So it is well acknowledged that those living with mental health will then suffer physical health conditions through, whether that be because they're stressed, whether that be because they isolate themselves, so then they aren't getting the physical activity, so they aren't getting the correct nutrition through the food because they're not going to the shops and they're just going to be ordering takeaways. So it's not just a mental state, it affects the physical. People living with depression are expected to live 15 years less than those that aren't. 15 years. It's not just a little, oh, I'm a bit sad. Like, that's 15 years of your life that you may lose. And it's something we can combat. We know how to combat it. It's just that we aren't doing it. So now let's just talk quickly about some of the stats that are there and the differences within gender. So suicide is more prevalent with men than it is with women. 16.9 deaths per 100,000 for men and 5.3 per 100,000 for women. That being said though, for women, well, for young girls aged 10 to 24, since 2012, the suicide rate, has gone up 94%. So yes, we can see that suicides affect males more than females, men more than women, but it's not that it doesn't affect women at all. Like I say, that last 9 years, it's gone up 94% for young girls. That needs addressing. Joe, again, like I say, we are all aware of men's mental health, but let's nip it in the bud for young girls before it gets to this stage. The largest group at risk, though, overall of suicide is middle-aged people. Again, then, mainly middle-aged men. There can be a variety of reasons for this. Financial, social, structural issues. Again, substance abuse comes into it. Over-the-counter things that we can get easily and readily available. So what can we do, ultimately? What can we do to combat depression, people killing themselves, things like this? Mainly, as many studies have shown, it's the support groups. As we can see there, women are more likely to contemplate suicide, but less likely to actually go through with the act. And this is because they have the support groups there within their own groups. It doesn't necessarily need to be a professional entity. Girls can feel more comfortable to talk to each other, whereas men don't. We have this toxic masculinity of toughen up, man up. We don't talk about things. Yes, we are more aware of them nowadays, and it's easy to pay it lip service. You'll see on social media people saying be kind and this, that and the other. But do we actually do that? And it's like, I don't mean about we need to live in an overly sensitive, overly afraid to say what we're thinking world and having a laugh with, say, dark humour. But there comes a time and a place, Joe, if we can just talk about things. If you're at a football club, a sports club, whatever it may be, as well as the physical elements of that, just talk to each other. Lads especially. Talk to each other. If you're having a kick about with your mates, talk about other stuff that's going on in your life. And don't just let it get on top of you. And don't also, other men, don't encourage any bad behaviour. So if you can see your mate struggling with something, don't laugh that he's going and getting drunk every weekend or doing daft things. Help them. And again, like, I don't mean in an overly sensitive way and being overly mollycoddling, but just talk to them, ask them if they're all right. So if you can see that they're doing something that's detrimental behaviour to their health, don't allow that. And again, it's not about dictating to people how they live their life and controlling someone else, but just put little things that can help them here and there. Like I say, if you can see they're going out all the time, try and suggest doing something else. As simple as that may sound, just going for a run on the weekend instead of going to the pub, going for a walk somewhere with your mate. Again, it doesn't need to be something overly complex, overly complicated, overly expensive. Just simple things like talking to each other. That is how we're going to overcome it. Like I say, physical health is affected by the mental health. So if we can do the two things together, we won't even realise. So again, like I say, with the example there of men in sports clubs, we're happy to go to sports clubs, happy to go to football. So then when we're there, just talk about little things. Stop with this man up mentality. And again, I'm not saying all men say this, because we don't. And many men are quick to call others out on those that then do that. So it's just that we need to then do this more so. If you see someone or hear someone say, "Oh, man up, you soft arse," whatever, in the pub to your mate, again, just call them out on it. And not in that overly condescending, patronising way. Just be like, "Oh, come on, mate, we know, we're the first ones to say that men's health needs to be highlighted. So then we are the first ones that need to address the issue in itself, If we're seeing people having that detrimental effects and saying detrimental things that they may not mean, so it's not necessarily about having a go at them. Like I say, just call it out. Say, "Oh, mate, come on, why are you saying that?" It's talk it out. Like I say, the main thing, if you see your mate having, like I say, town's the best one. I live in Blackpool, so town's the greatest one for me. A lot of people I know, and I'm sure a lot of people are aware in Blackpool of the issues with mental health and suicide. So we are a party town. People use that as an escapism. So if you see your mate going out every weekend, getting absolutely wrecked and in an absolute awful state, don't allow that behaviour. Yes, the responsibility isn't solely to be on you, but if you're someone's friend, let's prevent these things. Let's try and help now whilst we can. Shouldn't be seen as mollycoddling. Help now before it has to be some post about, "Oh, I wish I saw it." We do see it. We see it every day. So let's come together. Let's help each other. Whether that be physical activity, sports clubs, or just using the sport club to get someone there to then talk about things. Main thing we need to do is talk to each other. Like I say, women are more likely to think about suicide, but because they have that support group within each other, not necessarily a government implemented strategy, just the fact that they can talk to one another. This is what is going to help us. So guys, talk to each other, please. Good luck, guys. Just again, like I say, talk to each other. Don't bottle it up. Don't be afraid to say something, If your mate does say something to you and you think it's ridiculous, don't laugh. I know that sounds ridiculous. Just don't laugh at them, Talk to them. Ask them why they feel that way, or and then say why you feel it's a different way, But ultimately, don't laugh at them, because then you're going to make them feel like they cannot talk out in the future. And this is where we all have that responsibility, all have this accountability to, yes, we need to be there for each other. We all know that we need to be kind and help each other. So then when our friend does say something, even if we think they are being ridiculous, be there and support them, no matter what.